Hey guys, welcome to the Wildwood Show. I'm Upamanyu,
And I'm Meghna.
and we've got a great show planned for you. We will start with what is kind of the headline topic of the week. Two men have been jailed for a long, long time for felling a Sycamore Gap tree in the UK. I actually helped someone over the weekend to cut down a tree in their backyard. Am I going to jail, Meghna?
Oh, we don't know. We have to find out how expensive or how culturally precious is that tree because who knows? How do we know which trees are okay to kill?
That's correct. We'll talk about that. We'll talk more about that. Also, after the direwolves, a giant bird is being de-extincted, or at least trying. The same company behind the direwolf de-extinction, is trying to de-extinct the moa, which is a giant New Zealand bird which is now extinct. So we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about privately funded science and all things in between. What else have we got on the roster, Meghna?
I think one of the biggest things that I feel that has happened but hasn't been covered in the news is that the Mexican Senate has unanimously approved the ban on dolphin shows. This is a big step because I think we talk a lot about how dolphins and orcas don't belong in the pools of these dolphin shows and that it is inhumane to have these dolphin shows and tame them in a certain way. So it's great because now I guess we will not have any dolphins being captured from the wild and they can just stay in the ocean. So we need to talk about why this hasn't been covered as much and what are the other countries doing after Mexico has made such a significant decision. And along with that, we are also going to talk about how Operation Green Shield in Amazon has been a huge blow to environmental crime networks. So from from the dolphins being freed to other animals being freed. So between June 23rd and July 6th this year, Operation Green Shield saw coordinated action by law enforcement in Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. And the authorities have apprehended 94 individuals and confiscated illegally trafficked materials, including 2,100 live animals and 6,350 dead specimens. So this is a big blow because I think going ahead, when it has been such a big effective operation, we might see lesser attempts of poaching, but we need to talk about how long does this effectiveness stay, like how long will this kind of an operation have impact, and what is the long-term solution for anti-poaching and anti-trafficking.
Cool. We'll get into all that after we play the short intro. Okay, let's jump straight into what is the headline topic of this week. Two men behind senseless felling of Sycamore Gap tree jailed for more than 4 years. Daniel Graham, 39, and Adam Carruthers, and I don't know if I'm spelling that correctly, um, 32, have been sentenced for 4 years and 3 months in prison for the criminal damage of the Sycamore Gap tree, a beloved landmark in Northumberland. So, if I don't know if any of you guys know about this tree, I certainly hadn't heard about this particular tree. There are a couple of famous trees around the globe, but I hadn't heard of this particular tree. But apparently, this is a cultural icon and very iconic in that Northumberland scenario. Um, Moreover, the men felled the tree, an iconic sycamore planted in the 19th century, on a stormy night in September 2023, causing damage to Hadrian's Wall, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So I think, Meghna, like this probably is part of the reason why they have been granted such a harsh sentence. Like, this is the maximum sentence for a crime such as this. Um, Probably because it was part of a UNESCO World Heritage Site or something like that.
I am though a little confused. So this iconic sycamore planted in the late 19th century on a stormy night in September 2023. What does that
Oh,
even mean?
oh, I think it means I think it just means that they did the act in September 2023, and the tree was planted in the 19th century. I
Oh,
think
okay.
there's
Now,
some language thing going on there. Yeah.
yes, because I was like, if the tree was planted in September 2023, how can it be like late 19th century? It made no sense. And then I was like, okay, did the plant actually cause damage to the Hadrian's Wall, or did the people who damaged, like who cut down the tree, damage the Hadrian's Wall? It was really confusing because you know how in certain areas when you have these big banyan or people trees and they have these huge roots and they actually can disrupt walls and damage other structures. So I thought it maybe it's the tree roots, but no, it's I don't know, the way it's written, it's very confusing.
Yeah. Um, by the way, just worth mentioning that we do not sort of condone any of these kinds of action. All trees must and should be protected. But what we wanted to talk about regarding this, and why it was so surprising for us, is this particular tree, for some reason, is granted uh, a special status, a special VIP status, um, compared to all other trees in the world.
But I think oops like that. Let's say if a layman is killed or murdered or raped, it makes it to the news, but maybe like a small section. But when a celebrity is murdered or killed or raped, it is big news. And then there's like a big manhunt to find out who did it, and there is like news coverage for days till the person is found, and the person who is found gets like really strict punishment. But I think it all boils down to what we think is important. So are these humans important? Are these trees important? Are these animals important? Like how we spoke last time about moodang. So moodang got really popular, but that doesn't mean that pygmy hippos in general are popular. It's just moodang. So we like, where do we know what is the line, and how do we decide which ones are important, like which trees are okay to kill?
Yes,
And do you have the photo up for the audience
yes,
to see?
I have the photo up for the Sycamore Gap tree that was felled. Um, and also, I think, yeah, you made a good point about Mudeng as well. Like, if pygmy hippos are being captured or poached, or I don't know what the actual status is of pygmy hippos in the wild, that might not be as well reported as in case something happened to Mudeng. Like, her birthday was such a big celebration, so you can only imagine how much of an event or how much of a stir it would be in the media if something actually happened to her. Um,
Now,
so
like how you said you're not sure about this particular tree. Now, obviously, this particular tree, not everyone knows because I think it's very locally UK in Northumberland, and it's an iconic thing there. But imagine if that tree was even more popular across the world, like maybe the New Zealand tree, the that one Wanaka tree. If something
yes,
had happened there, maybe the jail sentence would have been harsher.
yes,
Or
yes.
like the Seco Park tree, the one where the
Ah,
through the, maybe something like that. If those trees were felled or something happened to those trees, I'm sure that the jail sentence would be even harsher.
yes, and I think we touched on this last time as well, but also it has its pros. Like, one specific, in this case a tree, in last time we talked about an animal, but one specific animal or tree, like, representing hope for the rest of its kind. um you know and also, like, I think this also comes down to the fact that, oh, if such a famous tree can be cut, if they didn't have any consequences for that, people would take away the impression that, all other, if by cutting down a famous tree nothing happened to them, we can cut any tree around our town or city as we feel like it without even getting like punished, at the least, fined or something like that.
I
um
I think it also boils down to what is public property and what is private property, and what you can do. Like, so vandalizing public property is not cool and not appreciated, and it has its consequences. Now it depends on how important is that public property as well. Now, when you talked about how you help someone fell a tree. So I remember when I was in New Zealand in the accommodation. There used to be this big tree over the gate, but it was in the neighbor's yard, and it was beautiful because every time you used to walk out of the gate, you could see the tree and its branches, and when it would flower, then the flowers would come down. It was beautiful. And one fine day, the person just decided to cut it, and it felt like a day and night difference trying to walk out of that gate. For that person, it meant nothing. He just got a arborist, he cut down the tree. But every tree has some kind of importance. But at the end of the day, I think you can't punish someone for taking some action within their own backyard, even though they shouldn't. Like, ideally, until and unless you really really need that tree to be cut for something, ideally you shouldn't. But not all trees create the same impact. So at least I think with this, the people know they cannot vandalize public property and go scot free.
That's true. That's true. And I think the sentence that Judge Mrs. Justice Lambert described the act as senseless and rejected claims of drunkenness by Caruthers. The pair filmed the tree's destruction. So feel like this was like
They
this was
brought it
like a
upon
joke.
themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah, but they
and
brought it upon themselves. And I,
yeah,
I think in the age of social media, people want to, like murder someone or do something and put it up on live or put it up on a reel, thinking that, oh, this is going to be so crazy. Like, everybody's going to love this. But they don't realize that you're literally giving proof or evidence of the crime that you're committing.
yeah, that is correct. That is correct. 100%. Um, and I think that has happened in this case, as well. The pair filmed the tree's destruction using Graham's phone. Evidence showed Graham's car was used to transport the chainsaw to the location. So they actually like planned this whole thing out. During an 8-day trial, the jury reviewed the footage and considered the evidence. The men were found guilty of criminal damage. Okay. The tree was a popular spot for visitors for decades, frequently used for picnics, proposals, and photography. As you were mentioning, the Wanaka tree that was very famous in New Zealand as well.
Yeah, so I mean, if it was a popular picnic spot and a proposal spot, it
Yes.
has a big, probably people talk about it like, you remember like how this person proposed that person under that tree. It probably makes a big impact when that changes happen, and especially when you're used to a scenario looking a certain way, and you see that tree there, and you're like, oh yes, that tree belongs there. Like how in some places you have those one tree hill places. You know how on a hill you just have that one tree, and that one tree holds
Yes.
significance because there's no other tree there. And then one tree
Yes.
gets cut, and you're like, oh, it's just a hill now. Like you just don't relate with it anymore. I think that's what is happening because a lot of people had a lot of connection with that tree. So the connection is where I think it's caused a difference here.
Yeah. And but my question is this: like we obviously have talked about, you know, um, not yet in the show, but how between the two of us, that how some animals, we even like killing some animals are okay to kill, the ones in captivity, and ones we use for our consumption and all those things. They are okay to kill, but other, like mostly wild animals and certainly the celebrity status individuals, are not okay to kill. Do you think like trees are like a step above that. Like we feel nothing cutting down a tree because they absolutely don't, display any signs of life. Do you think that's why like cutting a tree for us is such not a big deal?
I think yes, definitely it boils down to that an animal can show you emotions way more than a tree can. But you remember, oops, one time I actually showed how I gave water to this plant and it was moving. You remember in
I
our
do.
house. So trees do actually communicate, but you need to, or trees or plants. I mean, I think when it's a tree, it's harder because you don't spend as much time just connecting with a tree. But when you have a plant in your house, at least I remember I had these bonsai plants which were really popular
Mm,
at one point of time, and the one
mm,
in my room, I used to run my hands through it and I used to talk to it, and it grew like thicker, bigger, and it stayed for 2 years longer than the other bamboos that we had in our house, the
right.
same kind. So trees do display, what do you say, I wouldn't say affection, but trees do display, they do display, like they will show you that that connection means something. But it's harder, like I think it's way harder, because at least with animals you have five senses. With trees you have probably one sense, which is
Yes.
touch, and wherever it can show that connection. So it is that disconnect or detachment where it's easier for us to fell a tree, as opposed to, it's just like how, I mean, the tree can't talk for itself. At least an animal can show, it can show fear, it can try to run away, it can try to attack you in defense. There is something
Yes.
where you can read the fear, but you cannot read the fear of a tree.
Yeah, I think that I feel the same. That is part of the reason why, like I feel like, in my opinion, we are so okay with cutting trees, although they're as much, um you know as much a living thing as us. And I think that there was this book, I can't right now remember the name of it. It'll come to me, but this was written by a German, um, caretaker, like caretaker for planned plantation, for like the ones we plant for, hardwood and things like that. And he actually wrote a book about his experiences in that plantation, and how a tree would, when a tree is cut in the neighborhood, how other trees would supply nutrition to that stump to try and help it keep alive. Or how, further research has been done on how trees would communicate, via synapses in the ground, like, connected from one tree to the other. How how two trees, just like how trees would feel pain, if one of their surrounding trees are cut. So I think all that research just goes to point, um, in the direction that trees are as much of a living being as us. And I think cutting down any tree, um, is is not very good. Period.
Yeah,
Um,
I think, like I remember I was a part of this research where I was volunteering, and the research showed how trees inside the forest, they like grew straight and big and they were healthy, but trees on the fringes of the forest, the ones where humans interacted, tried to chop down trees, the trees were bent, and they were
mm,
weaker, they were just not as fit looking as the trees inside the forest. So it made a big difference on how the interaction was, the quality of probably the air, water, uh, different kind of elements inside the forest as opposed to outside, and how the other trees were probably cut so it maybe pain the trees next to them. We do not know, but that research was quite interesting to know how the environment affects the growth of trees as well. uh, but talking about the New Zealand tree, why don't we show our viewers the before and after pictures of the Wanaka tree? So for the viewers who do not know, there is this one tree that is really famous for being photographic in Wanaka. It is a place in New Zealand, a lake city, a lake town, and Wanaka has a lot of trees across that entire stretch of the lake beach area, whatever you would call it. But you keep walking to the end of that lake, and then you see this tiny tree. So like the entire hype that is created. When you're walking towards it, you're like, where is it? Like, it's almost like that. But when you see it, it's really pretty. Like, I mean, it is pretty, but it's I don't think like it justifies the hype, like, because the hype is so crazy, and I don't know, you're expecting like a huge tree in the middle of the lake, but it's just the angle and the way you're positioned. So I think that also drives how humans frame a subject, and then it looks beautiful, so then we go crazy over it. So yeah.
Yeah, all the Instagram worthy sort of locations and things like that. Um, yeah, I think I'm just trying to find an image of the after it was like trimmed or cut or whatever.
Just
Um,
it so like the Wanaka tree was like, it had a circular kind of image with its branches, so it looked like it was a
yes.
full circle. And then someone chopped off the two branches at the bottom. They were
Yeah.
also drunk, is what the news came out. So they chopped the branches off, and then it just did not look as perfect as it looked earlier. uh,
Yeah.
and that's, I think, what pained a lot of people. But I think with Wanaka, nobody was able to figure out who did it. So yeah,
Yeah, I
no, there
think
was there was no repercussion.
yeah, I'm just sharing that those two images on my screen as well. But yes, I think generally like New Zealand places are very remote. There's not much, those kinds of, surveillance going on in most places, especially Wanaka. Wanaka is considered like a remote, sort of small town. So, yeah, no consequences for this. And also, I think the Sycamore Gap was in like if I remember correctly, it was in a private sort of land. So I think that would have affected the outcome as well, where there was someone to sort of push for the sentence hard, and one individual, sort of push for that outcome hard as well. Yeah, so that is all we've got about this tree and like trees in general. Yeah, don't cut trees, guys. Don't cut trees. That's the takeaway message here as well. Yeah, I
And
think we have exhausted us.
especially important trees, guys. If you don't want jail time, then don't cut important trees.
Yeah, don't cut important trees. Don't vandalize public spaces. Yeah, just yeah, be civil. Be civil. Um, cool.
Yeah.
I think that's all we have on there. Why don't we talk about the other piece of news that hasn't been covered so widely about the
Yes.
dolphins, Meghna?
Yep. So on June 24th this year, the Mexico Senate passed a 99 to 0 vote to amend the general wildlife law. Now, 99 to 0 is crazy. I mean, generally, any kind of rule, and when the parliament, there is an opposition, there is, like, I mean, it's very hard. Like, and I think generally what we read is that if you get two-thirds of a majority on some law or bill, then it gets passed. But
Hmm.
99 to 0 means that the entire Senate in Mexico was convinced that you have to prohibit the extractive exploitation of dolphins and other marine mammals in entertainment shows and hands-on tourist interaction. So that itself shows how Mexico at least has developed to this level where they realize that they shouldn't I mean, they shouldn't encourage such kind of shows. I'm not saying that Mexico has cleaned up its act. There are still a lot of other things that I think Mexico does, but this itself is a big step towards it. So the amendment, though, makes exception only for scientifically verified research, which must be managed by registered institutions under protocols. So like with everything else, I think when it comes to research, we do lax down the rules, and we have like a easier approach towards it, because research helps the animals and research benefits the animals. So we let research be okay in such kind of situations. So now the law, popularly dubbed as the Mincho law, follows public outrage after a dolphin named Mincho was severely injured during a performance at a resort, and other dolphins reportedly died. So this dolphin in Mincho, we do not know the news of how it was severely injured during a performance, but the other dolphins also died from the damage that Mincho received. So it shows the herd behavior and how close the herd was, and because something happened to Mincho, all the other dolphins were also aggrieved. And then, in this case, we see that public outrage creates a big impact. So because the public vocally spoke about it, then the law was passed unanimously.
And I think Mexico has an experience, or like an history with marine mammals. We all remember Keiko, or as he's famously known, Willie. So that was also like orca or killer whale in an aquarium in Mexico City. And in at that point in time, like when he was taken away from that aquarium and sort of rehabilitated into being a wild orca again, the whole world rallied behind it. And I think Mexico, and the aquarium in general was in the news for that reason. So I think Mexico also has a deep history with dealing with such a situation where marine mammals have been hurt or have been severely injured, or generally not living a good life inside of an aquarium. um, and
And I think that's where I think the other topic can be plugged in, where with humans, when they do or commit a crime, or it is alleged that they commit a crime, it that is when they are sent to jail, or they have to be in jail. But with animals, they've done nothing, like nothing
hmm,
to actually cause them to be in a jail, but they're still in this tiny space, and then they have to entertain humans, like a job that they did not sign up for. Now, as a human, I can volunteer to do a job, or I can volunteer not to do a job. Like, it is my
hmm,
choice, where I say, yes, I need this money, I need this job. Okay, there is some
hmm,
kind of desperation on my end, but at least I'm not thrown in, like I'm not forced to do a job. Yes, I mean, depending, we're not talking about slaves and other things, that is a different topic, but in general. So I think with animals, that is where we need to know what is okay, like why should we be okay with captive breeding. And with marine mammals, I think it becomes even more important, because they belong in the wide ocean. So I remember, oops, like one time I was volunteering at this eco resort, and they just like picked up fish from outside the, like just outside their property, like in the ocean, and they got the fish and they just put them in the tank. And for a second, I didn't even understand why they brought those fish. And these fish, they kept hitting the edges of the aquarium. They just kept hitting on the glass all the time, and
hmm,
for 1 or 2 hours they kept hitting, because for them, one, they didn't realize what glass was, and secondly, they were used to just swimming freely. And all of a
hmm.
sudden there are like these walls, and the two transparent walls that they can't figure out. So they kept hitting, and then after 1 or 2 hours they kind of settled down, and they just sat in a corner, because I think they wanted to figure out what happened, and they were so much in shock that they couldn't. And it really hit me, because I don't think we see like tiny fish and relate to how badly it affects them, but we see dolphins and orcas, and we see that, but it affects all of them. And you're just used to migrating really far and swimming really
Hmm.
really far. So you cannot just put them in a small pond or a small pool and be like, oh, they're living their best life.
Yes, I think that is what I think you brought up a good point. That is for our listeners and viewers. I think that's where it the the objection for keeping marine animals comes in is that these animals are accustomed to swimming hundreds, probably thousands of kilometers, while they migrate, or even like dolphins and other intelligent marine mammals have been observed to do things for fun. So even for fun, they are in the water. Like as humans, we go out running just for fun, or we, you know, walk. There are a lot of people that love walking and they just walk for fun. So it is kind of similar in marine mammals as well. They swim, and they swim hundreds, as Meghna was saying, hundreds, if not thousands of kilometers at a stretch, and no way you can emulate that in a confined space. So, and there has been, if I remember correctly, there has been some preliminary research on how it sort of affects the mental well-being and mental health of, especially in like more intelligent marine animals like dolphins, like orcas, or whales, and things like that. So it is very difficult, and also like the depth as well, right? Meghna, you can probably sort of illustrate on how that affects like the depth they swim at. Generally, we can never achieve that depth.
Yeah.
um
I think you had like people have had cameras strapped to like sharks and dolphins, and
mm,
um I'm not sure if they've strapped it to killer whales to show how deep they go. Even seals, like they go up to 300, 500, thousands of meters down, and then they come back up.
mm,
That kind of freedom, I mean, like it's just crazy that they can go that deep and that far. So and you cannot really, you cannot give them that kind of peace or happiness. And I think as humans, there's also this thing where we think we know what they want. So when you have a dolphin show, and we get really happy if a dolphin's like, or you're swimming
mm,
with a dolphin, you get really happy and you think, oh, the dolphin actually likes this. But
mm,
the dolphin's just trained to do that, and
mm,
turn around and like kind of like put its face into your hand.
mm,
It's trained to
mm,
do that. It doesn't mean the dolphin's happy. Just because someone looks happy doesn't mean they are happy. And we try to kind of portray it in a way that we want people to feel like, oh, this is completely fine.
mm.
And this is where I want to ask the subscribers a question: that have you been to a dolphin show? Have you swam with a dolphin or interacted with a dolphin, both in captivity and in the wild? And how did you feel? Like as for me and Oops, we actually went for one dolphin swim in the wild in New Zealand. There is a place called Kaikoura where dolphins just come for mental stimulation. Like they actually like
Mm,
to interact with you. There's no baiting. There is nothing else. It's just that humans are dropped into the water every day there, and the dolphins know that the humans are going to be dropped, and they're like hundreds of dolphins. And if you interact with them, they interact back with you. So if you're like going around fast, then they go around you fast, and it's crazy. It's beautiful. And the fact that you can interact with them in the wild, then why would you want to capture them and put them in a small pool?
yes. But I have a question for you, Meghna. What do we feel about the, like, how should we handle the dolphins, or any sort of marine mammal, or land mammal even, that has been either rescued or in some way injured in the wild, or because they need to be kept in captivity, right?
Now, I think it depends on if it is a wild animal and it's been brought in for some fixing up. Now, if it's not like a big timeline, let's say if it's a week or two, now it's grown up in the wild, so it knows how to take care of itself in the wild. So it's just been fixed up. You can rehabilitate it back into the wild if it is able to take care of itself. But I think some animal that's grown up in captivity, it's
Mm,
very hard to teach it wild behavior. Like, so
mm,
let's take our dog as well. Maybe it might survive, but maybe it might not survive. Now there's a 50-50 chance, because they could go on their instinct, but it is also possible that they do not go on their instinct. So with animals that have been brought up in captivity, it's different. So something like, oops, in the tiger parks, the national parks in India, they
Mm,
say that when a tiger cub is born in an area where you have these safaris going through every day, they are so
mm,
habituated and they've grown up seeing these safari vehicles, so they're really comfortable around the safari vehicles. They'll like go in front of them, they'll just walk they past them, and they'll be walking along them. But a tiger that's been relocated from like a core area that has zero knowledge of or from some other national park where there are no safaris, and it's relocated to another national park, then these tigers are really scared because they're not used to the noise, they're not used to the vehicles. So it's very different. Like, you have to be used to something. And when animals are not actually brought up in the wild, then we do not know how to. It's going to be really hard to kind of release animals that were not brought up in the wild.
yes, I think that that's also something that to keep in mind generally, like an animal, because with the amount of animals that we have in captivity right now, there are hundreds of animals being born in captivity, or for some reason are best kept in captivity because there can be, like,
The
poaching
wild,
pressures
yeah,
or any number of things that,
ex-
like, yeah,
extinction pressure, like
yeah,
I think the
extinction
last
pressure.
the last northern white rhino.
Northern white
Yeah.
rhinos, yes, yes. Those are some of those examples that we have to, like, we can't sit there and do nothing, basically. It's at a point where, like, even though naturally no, human intervention won't occur, but we can't just sit there and do nothing and let it just die. So we have to do something. So those are the situations I think human
Yeah,
intervention is required.
yeah, but I mean, we need to phase captivity down. We have AI now, we have different kind of technology. If you really want to educate humans or human kids, how these animals work, you can do it without having to, show them in a zoo or a aquarium. You can very well have programs where you can emulate them without having the real animal in that place. And if you really want to show them, then you can take them in the wild and show them, because there
Yes,
are
yes, I
enough.
was about to
Yeah,
say. Yeah.
yeah.
Like, take the students into, like, a quick safari, whichever is the nearest park to your location or whatever. Yes.
Yeah, or like those glass bottom boats or things like that,
Yeah.
where you can see how the reefs and the fish and the sharks and all look so much better. But I think my biggest question with this news is that it hasn't been covered widely. So me and Oops, we were
Yes.
desperately trying to search for sources that were reliable, and the only source we got was this one. Let me just share it with you. Um,
Yeah, I
yeah.
was quite surprised as well. Like, topics such as this, why hasn't, like, mainstream news outlets picked it up? What's your thinking behind this, Meghna? Like, why do you think this has happened?
I mean, maybe the public outrage was very local, and then the decision that came up, it just didn't hit the chords right enough for the news industry across the world to pick it up. Like, I feel
Hmm.
like maybe things that are more human related pick up faster than something that is more animal related. As I mean, as it's natural for humans to care for other humans more than animals.
Hmm. Hmm.
But yeah, so this is the Mexican News Daily news report that we found. But we would have thought that something like the Guardian and BBC and other kind of outlets would have this article
Yeah,
picked
BBC
up.
picks up everything, pretty much everything. I don't know why BBC didn't pick this up.
Yeah, we're actually really surprised because this was picked up by Instagram accounts like Only One, but
Hmm.
it wasn't picked up by bigger news channels, and something where a unanimous vote has been passed, that itself is, I think,
Yes.
great human behavior. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's amazing human behavior to see a unanimous vote, that too for animals. It should have been picked up, and I think that's where we lack with news and news reporting, that we do not give that much importance to wildlife. And at the same time, like me and Oops also feel like this podcast, like we both are really passionate about wildlife, but we also know that because it's not very human oriented, we do not know how much this podcast would be picked up. It's the same thing when it comes down to like everything. It's not a human related topic, so we do not know how popular it would be.
Yes, and I think the dolphins, like even the outrage and sort of the unanimous passing of the law wasn't enough for like basically it was not like going viral worthy almost. And I hate the fact that it has come down to this. If that is in fact true, why it was not picked up by more larger news outlets? Yeah, it makes me really sad that that is what the bar is for us to be able to, for these kinds of issues to be able to brought in front of the larger public. And I think also, if these issues are not brought in front of the public, then sort of changing that normalized behavior in society, this is a typical example of, oh, look at this country, they are doing a great job at passing this law in an age of when we are sort of reverting back to a large amount of exploitation of the environment. We're reverting back from that mindset of, oh, we need to protect as much as possible of it, to from that to oh, let's mine as much as possible and things like that. This would have been a great example. Oh, Mexico has done it, why not us? Why not we do it? And yeah, I think that's where these, so yeah, message for from our side as well, like message to the larger news outlets as well, like please do pick up these kinds of stories where it highlights issue, but it also sort of highlights the larger narrative around these kinds of um, landmark decisions. And I would call this a landmark decision, like
Oh, definitely. And I think one of the things with news is also that negative news spreads faster than positive
mm,
news.
yes.
Um, and, I mean, if it was something about a dolphin dying somewhere, maybe it might have actually been picked up by the outlets. But here, where, you're showing hope, and you need hope in such a hopeless world,
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
the way the world is going, it's pretty hopeless, and it's harder to kind of pick up and go and do your thing every day. And then when you see news like this, that okay, there is a unanimous vote, and these animals are being freed, and there's no more captive dolphins, then why do we not push that positive narrative forward? We need more positive news. We desperately need more positive news.
Oh, 100%, I could not agree more. um cool. Do you think we've talked about this?
Yeah, I think from here we go to the topic where at least it has been covered a lot. So dire wolves, like where it made it viral across the news that the wolves are back, the dire wolves are back. Yeah, like they were not
And I
back,
think even
but
more because the wolves were such a big part of Game of Thrones, so that there's a lot of that in the popular culture as well. Such a successful and popular show as Game of Thrones. Um, yeah, like them coming back from the extinction naturally was this huge sensation. Everybody was talking about it. It basically met the bar of being picked up by news outlets, the bigger news outlets, and things like that. Um,
and it is also one of those things like how humans keep saying, please don't touch that, please don't bring that back, but we keep doing it. Like, you know how we make those movies like iRobo, and then we're like, oh, no, 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 we shouldn't develop AI to that level, and then we do develop it to that level. So I
Yes.
think it's something where we want to do it. You know how they say that if you tell someone that the paint on the wall is still not dry, they will touch
Mm.
it. But you
Ye-
tell someone that there is an invisible man up there in the sky looking after you, they will believe it.
Yeah, no, that is correct, and I could not agree more. And I think we'll talk about it, but I think generally, like, there has been one of the most popular movie series franchise of all time, Jurassic Park, has warned us, repeatedly, as Meghna was saying, about this exact same situation, like de-extincting something for which the niche is gone. I think that's the point to take away here. Like, the niche for that animal is is gone, is not existent anymore, and um, we, however much we try and speak about it or try to defend it, we cannot create that niche in
Environment.
the, yes, the niche in the ecosystem, that animal was thriving in. So
It's also, I think, about public acceptance. Like now, if you bring back something like the moa, which is a huge bird, think of it like maybe as big as, like, is it 4 times an ostrich or 5 times an ostrich?
yeah, I'll just look that up. But yeah, I think it's a big bird.
It's a huge bird, and it
Yes.
was hunted down by the Maoris when they reached New Zealand, because they were easy probably to hunt down, and then that provided a lot of food for them. So they hunted down to the last moa. So now, when we do not have moas, and we bring them back, how do we bring them back, and where are they supposed to survive? Are you just going to put them on show, on display in a, in an enclosed space? Because that's what you're going to do. You cannot let them just run wild in a national park or in a remote area. So
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's what that's what this is all about. Like, the purpose they can serve, um is of
an
being,
ornament. Yeah.
yes, as a display item in a living zoo, sort of, in a living museum, in fact, pets for billionaires, maybe. That's what is going on here. The company that brought back direwolves plan to de-extinct the giant bird next with Peter Jackson's help. So, Lord of the Rings, if you guys don't know, director Peter Jackson, New Zealand native and resident, and his partner Fran Walsh invested $15 million in colossal biosciences to help revive the extinct South Island giant moa bird. And I was just looking up. There were, actually, Meghna, there were like few different, a lot of different species of moa. Some of them were, smaller than the ostrich, and some of them, as you said, were much bigger. I didn't find the exact size or exact times they were bigger, but
But you remember, how in the Otago Museum you have that replica, like a statue
yes,
of the
the
moa when you
giant moa.
enter.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That is a huge. Yeah, now I remember. Yes, that is a huge, huge statue. Yeah, so it's definitely very, very much bigger than the ostrich. So that's also interesting that they chose to bring back the biggest of the biggest, because I feel like that would make the most impact, that would make it more newsworthy. And
And I think
also,
it kind of opens doors to kind of, oh, can we experiment even more? Can we bring back the woolly mammoth?
yes, and I think that is on the plan for Colossal Biosciences. I think if you go on their website, they have listed a list of species, um, that they intend to bring back, and woolly mammoth is one of those. But I think also what we when we were planning the show as well, like we touched on this, and we wanted to discuss. I think one of the points is privately funded science. Um, it is that, you know, that area, the gray area that we haven't explored before now. You know, like in such a large scale, there's always been privately funded science, but real leaps in science is made by countries and not individuals, because the money that a country invests is generally for, like, the country is not looking to make a profit on their investment, but private investors will look to make a profit. And that's why I feel like whenever Elon Musk or someone like that speaks about sending humans to Mars, I'm like, you're bullshitting me, because, you know, no investor would, you know, invest in this project, which would require like trillions of dollars, which where they wouldn't have a guarantee of getting that money back, and they wouldn't have even have a guarantee that the humans will reach Mars and start to terraform it, whatever, um, in a successful way. So privately funded science is that sort of gray zone that we are starting to venture in. Um, the biotech company plans to use ancient DNA and gene editing to recreate a Moa-like bird. That is also, I think, a very important distinction there. It won't be a Moa. It won't be a Moa by a million miles. It would be, maybe it would look like a Moa. I don't know if it would even look like a Moa, because, yeah, nobody knows. We just have fossils. No one in living memory knows how a Moa looks like. Actually, what morphs does it have, or what colors does it display, or all those things. Maybe it would be the size of a moa and roughly the same shape of a moa, but it won't be a moa. It would be
Oh,
something completely different.
definitely. I mean, we go by just the skeletons that we find. Do you remember we once had this museum exhibit that what if dinosaurs had feathers? Did you see that one? So you had all
Yes.
these dinosaurs and it had colorful feathers on them because we just did not know if dinosaurs had feathers on them or not. So we
Yeah.
recreated them with with feathers because you did not know how their skin looked. So we just imagine what their skin look like, or I mean, because we just have the skeleton when we have nothing else, so we don't know what
Yes.
their outer texture look like. So with the moa it will be the same. We do not know what colors, what texture, how big the feathers were. So it's just a, that's why they call it a moa like. And it was the same with
Hmm.
the dire wolves, that
Yes.
I think you made a video on that. It is not the dire wolf, it is like a dire wolf. So similarly in this it'll be like a moa bird. So are we okay funding so much money to actually bring back an animal from the dead, which is not even that animal, it is like that animal, you know?
Yes. It's like changing a few genes of your house cat to make it look like, have all these stripes on their, like, leave house cat, like inject some genes into me and look me, like, make me look like, have all these stripes on my body, and maybe even grow big as a tiger. Would I become a tiger? I wouldn't become a tiger. The house cat, if we do that same thing to a house cat genome, the house cat won't become a tiger. It will still be a house cat. So I think for this project, they would probably take something like a cassowary or emu, or I don't know
Emu, yeah.
which. Yeah, something like that. They would take as the donor genome, and they would sort of try to modify some genes there to make it. It would still be a cassowary or moa, sorry, emu or whatever that thing is, but it would just be visually different. It would just be, putting some makeup on, basically. Um,
Yeah, and I think with humans, I think you don't need gene editing. Most humans are like, "Oh, I'm a lion, I'm a tiger."
no,
You
but
don't
but
need
but
the.
this actually brings forward that sort of debate and that sort of thinking as well, that school of thought as well. Like, if we can do this, what is to say that billionaires and people with money won't ask for a designer baby? Like, if we can, if we get really good, and I think there are some pretty good technologies that has come out
Oh,
of,
yes. On the
you know,
babies, yeah, on the babies, I think they're starting to make these incubators that are transparent and the baby can grow there instead of in your womb, and you can see how your baby. So I'm sure, I mean, designer babies would definitely be up next, and people
yes,
who can afford it would want like the prettiest baby that they can get. So it's
the
basically
most
cosmetic
intelligent.
surgery. Yeah, it'll be cosmetic surgery in the womb instead of outside. So yeah.
Yes, and like not even cosmetics, because they would be born with those traits. And I think we have done it. We have done it. We do it for babies, but I think only for like very, harsh and bad diseases and things like that. We try to eliminate those genes, when the embryo forms. But I think that has been strongly controlled by, legal statutes and things like that, and legalities. But the technologies that are coming out of this sort of an experiment are really cool technologies, because they have figured out a lot of things in the process of getting, to this stage of the extinct direwolf, and now what they're planning with the moa. So what is to say, as you were saying, like that same technology, other billionaires won't demand it be used on humans.
I think it all boils down to when we do some kind of research, especially for animals, that how can it benefit us? Like, you see
Oh,
so many articles like, oh, crocodiles or alligators have teeth that can grow back, or they have teeth that never decay, or something like that. I don't remember the article. Then they're like, oh, can we kind of emulate it so that humans have similar kind of teeth? Like, everything boils down to us. So, if you're doing some kind of research, we want the benefit for us, not really for the animal. And even if we want the benefit for the animal, it's more on a credit basis, like, oh, we brought back the dire wolf, oh, we brought back the moa, oh my god, it's amazing, we have this kind of technology. It's not for the moa or the dire wolf. Like, I don't think those animals even wanted to be there in the first place, but they are now here, and then they would be a display item for whatever time that they would survive. And we do not even know how or if they would survive. So I honestly think that kind of funding that the investors are putting into, they can put it into anything else which could
mm.
actually help humanity or the animals, but instead of doing something as frivolous as having an ornament item.
Yes, and I think that is highlighted in this article as well. I'll just finish reading the article. So they're creating a more like bird, working alongside Maori leaders and scientists in New Zealand to guide cultural and ecological effort. This is all just a smokescreen. They have to say this. But the Moa project is still in early stages with significant challenges, especially due to the complexities of bird reproduction. Critics argue, as the point you were making, that de-extinction diverts attention from endangered species, but Colossal claims its work complements conservation. Jackson, who owns a major moa bone collection, says the technology offers hope for planet's biodiversity. The initiative follows Colossal's claim of producing direwolf pups and its work on reviving the woolly mammoth and Tasmanian tiger. The company also plans to restore native New Zealand habitats for future moa-like birds, though no timeline has been set. And I think that is what Meghna was highlighting as well. Like, this technology could be used, like definitely 100% can be used to help the animals that are already animals and plants. You know, one huge example is a species of chestnut, which was affected by this deadly disease, which made them insurvivable. I can't remember the exact details, but which made them insurvivable in this in a specific part of United States. It was a specific species of chestnut, and they actually did some gene editing there, to make that chestnut species basically resistant to that particular disease. And that I thought was a great outcome. And another example is the Przewalski's horse, which was again dwindling down, and they were sort of brought back from extinction. And I think those are very successful, as you were saying as well, because their niches still exist. Like they have maybe gotten extinct in the last couple of years. The niche, the habitat, they still exist. So if we reintroduce that animal, they'll just go right back into the niche like a jigsaw puzzle. But these animals, the niches don't exist. It's just the billionaires' pets. Um, and that funding, if redirected towards, you know, birds or animals or, marine mammals that are endangered, would serve a lot better purpose.
Yeah, I mean, when is similar to how you said, like Musk is thinking of sending people to
Mm,
Mars, and a lot of people are like, oh, if you're spending that much money, why don't you make life for humans better on Earth? Because we're already here. Like, why do you want to go to a new planet and try to inhabit that when there are already humans inhabiting here and they're living a not so good life? Like a lot of people can be helped by that same funding instead of trying to get to another planet. But we as humans want that that extra entertainment or that extra push that, oh, we can do this as well. So it is the same thing, like like, I mean, if the last rhino is dying, we would still want to bring back a moa, but not try to successfully bring back or keep those rhinos alive, or bring back or keep some other animal alive that is going extinct right now. So endangered species need to be focused on than animals that we've already lost around 700, 800 years back, because they're gone, and they went because of any or whatever reason it was. It could be humans, it could be environment, it could be anything, but whatever caused their extinction, it caused it because they were not able to adapt. And if they were not able to adapt back then, why do you think they will be able to adapt now?
yes, I think you made a great point. Like, um, yeah, focusing on the species that are that are on the brink of extinction or have recently gone extinct. That is the move here, guys. Like we we don't know what the future holds for us, but we are certain of this. Like all the climate activists and the conservationists and figures in wildlife and environment conservation, they warn us about a future where most of the species have gone extinct, including us, um, as a consequence of other key species going extinct. So I think what species are here right now, we should fund those species. Like they could have easily invested in something like uh, a red wolf in the States, or here in New Zealand something like takahe or a kakapo, or any number of things, that are living right now. But of course they choose the most viral worthy and Instagram worthy and sort of like the newsworthy thing to bring back. And as I was saying, they choose the biggest species of moa. They won't be happy with the moas that were only like half a meter tall. They won't be happy with that. They have to choose the biggest and the grandest species. Like how in Jurassic Park, I always think about Jurassic Park. Like they wanted to bring the T-Rex back first, or all the biggest sauropods back first. That's how it is. Like that would make the most money, and inevitably these things cannot be released into the wild, so it will be a theme park kind of thing. Which again, I'll admit, I'll be happy to go to a theme park like that. Like I would I would love to live in that age and see all the animals walking around. But as Meghna was saying, I can easily do it in a sort of virtual reality AI environment, um, as well. So
Yeah, I think like these kind of things, you can never justify the spending on these kind of things, because it probably makes sense to the people who are actually spending the money on it, but at the end of the day, when you think about what is the end product or the end goal, it doesn't serve any purpose. Like, not even to humanity, not to the animals, like not to anyone, just that it is newsworthy. It is crazy, like that we can, have such kind of developments. That's about it. Like, it doesn't value add, it doesn't add anything to anyone or any animal.
Yeah, and I think that is pretty clear with like who reported these stories as well. Like the first one to report the direwolf story was not National Geographic or not like a nature magazine. It was Time. And this more story is being reported by the People magazine. So these are not magazines which, focus on nature or extinction or climate change as its main topics. These are magazines which focus on people and people stories and the most, as Meghna was saying, newsworthy stories. So clearly, the intention is that this should go viral and more people, more billionaires should come and invest in these kinds of future de-extinction, because obviously this needs a lot of money, a lot of people's efforts. So a lot of money is required to achieve something like this. So yeah, don't bring back any more extinct species, people. Like
Yeah.
like long back, if they extincted like more than 500, more than 100 years ago. I mean, 100 again, more than 500, maybe more than 500 years ago. Don't bring back those species, please,
Even
guys.
100, even 100 is a big number. Of things
Even
have
100
changed.
is a big number.
Yeah, yeah, 100. I mean, things have changed like crazy in the last 100 years. So no, no, no. Hundreds are also crazy. I think animals just on the brink of extinction, or animals on who are endangered. Just that. And talking
And the and
about,
the ni- and the
yeah,
and the animals for which the niches still
exist.
exist. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's bring back those animals, please.
Yeah, talking about endangered animals, then I think we can switch to the next topic, which
Oh,
is
100%.
basically the Amazon basin and how this entire Operation Green Shield is actually helping animals survive. And, it's actually protecting the animals, which probably can be on the verge of being endangered. So, between June 23rd and July 26th this year, Operation Green Shield saw coordinated action by law enforcement from four countries: Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru, supported by UAE's I2LEC. Um, Authorities apprehended 94 individuals and confiscated vast illegally trafficked materials, including 2,100 live animals and 6,350 dead specimens. Places like the Amazon basin, it's still called the heart and the lungs of um, the earth. And like, if you're going to disrupt something that is the heart and lungs of the earth, that too via poaching and illegally uh, hunting down animals, it's going to cause that last, that last area, which is like the heart and lungs of our earth. It's going to be a huge blow to that area, and we have to try to conserve that area. So something like this Operation Green Shield, it's amazing, because you hear this positive news of people being caught, and they're being punished, and these animals that are at least alive can be returned back, or at least rehabilitated back to their wildlife spaces. Now, something like this, like an Operation Green Shield, it should be something that should be ongoing throughout the year and for a few years, so that people stop poaching effectively together. But I do understand, when forest areas are huge, it's not easy to employ so many people to take care of the forest. But as much as we can, we need to protect what already is there. And and Amazon has like this crazy number of species that do not belong in other areas, and just the Amazon basin. So we really need to take this seriously and fund for such things, not the MOA.
Yes, and like do you think like again, this is a question that is maybe we are too too little a cog in the system to effectively answer and effectively understand, but we'll still try. Like how do we, like, because obviously the main main issue behind poaching or trafficking or even deforestation is that human maybe poverty, or because I don't think, again, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think anyone does it for just doing it, especially like poachers, because they are on the verge of poverty and living a meager life most of the time. How do we combat that? Like, how do we combat that at its source? Because I think these kinds of efforts are very admirable and very good, but also like a band-aid on the situation. What do you feel? Is it like that? Is it how
Yeah,
you see it?
I think what we can do is, like, I don't know if you've heard of this one project. It's called Project Hue, and it's
Mm-hmm.
based in Indonesia. So there were these these fishermen who were catching sharks because they had to export the sharks. So the sharks were their livelihood, but dead sharks were their livelihood, because they would
Hmm.
catch these sharks and then they would get exported, and they would export it for their fins or whatever to other countries. And there's this girl who is actually um, spearheading this entire project. And what she's done is she's tried to grow the tourism in the area, where people come to swim with the sharks or watch the sharks. And now the people gain their livelihood from actually protecting the sharks. So now the hunting has gone down and they're protecting, because they're getting the same amount of money, but now they
So
don't have
live
to.
sharks are more valuable now than dead ones.
Yes, now live sharks are more valuable, and that happened slowly with trying to get them to be on board that tourism and live sharks will bring them more money than dead sharks, and exporting them. So now that that change has happened, it has to happen similarly here, I think, where if the same people who were poached or arrested, if you give them a position to actually protect the forest and use them for protection and offer them a salary for it, then probably they would be more determined to protect the sharks. Sorry, the Amazon basin, animals. So it's about where they can get their money from. So as you
Mm.
mentioned, then that people do it for their livelihood, but sometimes people do it for their greed as well. So for the greed, you can't really have an answer. But if they're doing it just for their livelihood, like how Project Hiu in Indonesia, it targets a really remote population where people only hunted down sharks for their survival, not for their greed. So as long as
Mm.
people are doing it for their survival, it is very easy to make that change. It will happen slowly, albeit slowly, but we can do that. We just need to provide them the money and resources so they do not go back to doing such illegal things.
Yes, so I think, yeah, you raise like a great point there as well. Like, tourism is one of those things that can turn a hunting ground into a biosphere reserve, and we find a lot of that examples of that throughout India, our country as well, where a lot of these bird hunting spots have been converted into like bird tourist spaces for photographers and bird watchers alike. So I think that's sort of the way to go here. And I think, don't get us wrong. Like, definitely these kinds of efforts is very commendable, and like this should keep happening, because the change Meghna mentioned, and that won't happen overnight. Like, that would take time and constant effort, constant advocacy from groups and from the government, from different individuals around that area whose life sort of is connected with something like as big as the Amazon and things like that. Um, but I think that's the message there as well. Like, we change that narrative from exploiter to an sort of enforcer and lover of those specific things. So um, that's how we actually
Yeah, we need
you
to
know.
bring that change about. It has to be slow because, like how Up said, it is a band-aid situation when you arrest these individuals because, most of these poaching or poachers have a poaching network. So it's not one individual, it's a lot of individuals taking part in a poaching exercise. So maybe if only half the team is caught or a quarter of the team is caught, the rest of them are still out there and they will employ other people under the pretext that they will get good money out of poaching these animals. But at the same time, obviously, like, despair and their own economic situation leads them to do this. So these people might actually be connected to the animals, but they cannot do anything for that connection because they really need to fill their stomachs. They need to get
Mm,
that money
mm,
first. And I remember, oops, I was once in South Africa, and they told us the story of how um, poachers came in a helicopter and they landed and they cut the horn of a rhino and they took it
wow.
away. And the rhino, basically, they didn't. So usually what they do is they completely kind of cut the rhino's face so that they can get the horn from the root.
From
But
the
in this,
root.
yeah, but from in this case they just cut it just enough for the rhino to survive. So I do not know why. But this rhino, she was a female and she was pregnant, and the rhino's horn is kind of like it's protection. It's what
Mm,
defines a rhino. So when the horn was gone, I think the female was so distressed that she had a miscarriage, and so the baby died. And
mm,
that's what I think poachers don't realize in the long term, that you do things to animals, but you do not know what kind of trauma you're causing to the animal. And at the end of the day, I mean, it's I mean, the tusk or a horn or the animal, they all have that right to survive, and you are taking that right away uh, and you're doing it in a very illegal way for your survival.
mm, mm. Um, and I think what was the story, Meghna? I think you shared it, or I was reading somewhere else that some species or some animal is being given the same legal rights as humans, or
I think that keeps happening everywhere, but it's not really legally enforced.
mm,
This we have heard a lot. I think even New Zealand brought about a law like that. And recently, I think dolphins, I think they were talking about dolphins
yes,
getting the same
yes,
legal rights. But legal rights and actually enforcing those legal rights are two separate things. So I
mm,
think we want animals to be treated equally, but we will not treat them equally. They're two different things, and nobody is going to spend their money on a legal case when something happens. So it is
yes,
one of those, again, rosy pictures painted where we say we're giving them these rights, but we don't actually give it to them. And I mean, it's not like the animals know they have that right, that
oh,
they can come and
that,
fight for it. Yeah, like, I have the same rights, I have the same
it
rights. So
it is always always a human that has to go and advocate for this. But I also think, like, on a slightly separate note, I think, like, how much destructions can humans cause? So I'm really surprised, like 94 individuals, and like, assuming that these were the local ring or local hand of that sort of gang or mafia or whatever you choose to call it, but they confiscated 2100 live animals and 6,350 dead specimens. Like, I just think of the scale. Like, group of 100 people, not even 100 people, is causing so much damage. Like, they're taking out, thousands of animals.
oh
You
yeah,
know,
and it says that they're valued at over $64 million. The seizure of all the
my
illicit
God,
assets. So if it is really survival, I don't think 100 people need $64 million. That is
no.
not survival. It is a business, and it is a business that thrives on illegal poaching.
Yes, yes, and yeah, I think that's the only way. The other thing, I don't know how easy or difficult it is to do, but other thing is also, like, advocating to reduce the demand of those things, like make it a cancelable offense to talk about these things in society in general, be it the circles we are in, or be it the circles, the billionaires and millionaires are in. Just make it completely, because they are the people who are buying these sorts of things, right? That's why these animals are being poached. If live animals are being caught, they are definitely being kept as pets and things like that. And dead specimens maybe for medicine and things like that. So I don't know. But we also like two-prong approach. Basically, we make make it so that protecting is more lucrative than poaching, and we also sort of advocate for that demand for it to go down, I think, as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you have these live animals, they're going somewhere, either to zoos
Yes.
or to private houses or private sanctuary or whatever it is.
Hmm.
But there is some kind of demand, like the same way, like, how they say that you're killing sharks because there is a shark fin soup demand in
Mm-hmm.
China and other
Japan.
places, China, Japan, and other places. So, I mean, when that demand is kind of finished, like where if you don't have that demand and it's gone, then there is no motivation to do this. So humans have to change on both ends, like how Opamanya said, it just cannot be let us make the protection more lucrative. We have to also educate people that we do not need these kind of animals in our houses or in our sanctuaries or in our zoos. We need those animals to stay in the wild. We do not need to eat these kind of exotic
Hmm.
animals. I mean, because we've already kind of made a system of what we
Yes, we have
eat,
figured out
and
what to eat. Yes.
we figured out what to eat. And I mean, that's a separate topic of the kind of abuse those animals go through. But if we can at least reduce the abuse of some animals, that would be great. And these animals already belong in a forest. They're not tame, they're
Yes.
not in a in a domestic environment.
In a
It's not like
factory,
how,
sort of. Yeah.
yeah, like cows and pigs and goats. They're brought up in a really bad environment, and they're just even culled down the same way. But with these animals, they've been brought up in a forest. They were living their life. They were not disturbing anyone else. They were just doing their own things in a forest. So why do you want them in a house or a private sanctuary? Like,
Yes.
what purpose is it going to solve for you or the animal? So yeah, I mean, if the demand stops, the supply stops. Something similar like the iron, not the iron, the elephant tusks. So the
Hmm.
elephant tusks were white ivory, and when we were little, I still remember, I think it was a big thing to have like an item
Oh,
of ivory in your
same.
showcase or showpiece.
Same.
And you would come across them, and they would be like really expensive, and you would have like
Yes.
a and the ironical thing was that they would make the statue of an elephant out of the tusk of the ivory. Yeah. But then there was a big uproar and outrage about elephants and protecting the tusks. And that's when the demand kind of dropped down. And now nobody's poaching elephants actively, at least not that I know, that elephants are being poached for their tusks, because there is no demand. So the demand drives the poaching market.
Yes. 100%. 100%. So yes, guys. I think with that, on that note, we'll end the show for today here. Again, as we always say, do give us a subscribe on our YouTube channel, and follow us on all the different platforms. You'll see all the different platforms in our descriptions, whichever platform you're watching this on. And please,
Like,
yes, like our
comment.
videos, comment your views on whichever platform you watch this on. This episode will also be available as a podcast, which we'll share the link to that in our video descriptions as well. But yeah, that is it for today. We will see you next Sunday, same time, same channel. Have a good one,
Yes.
guys.
Yes.